Hello world of YouTube, and welcome to a discussion, a conversation, if you will, but a discussion on subversion in film. So, recently, I've seen a lot of people using the element of surprise as a critique, or as a reason why they didn't enjoy a film, and I found that perplexing. And I guess I wanted to kind of just voice my grievance with that and see where you guys stand. And I'm going to be using three films, really, as comparison points, bullet points in my discussion. I'm going to spoil three films for you. If you have not seen The Last Jedi, the new horror film Hereditary, or the new Godzilla movie, watch those before you see this, or you're going to get spoiled. So, one of the things I think is interesting is that anybody who sees anything, like a trailer for something, or listens to the first single off of an album, you know, they build expectations. Expectations are even just the idea of something. Like if someone tells you, we're going to be making a sequel to Elder Scrolls, you know, people are already formulating what they want that game to be like, what they think a new Elder Scrolls game is, etc., etc. And that's what happened with the newest Star Wars film. You know, people... And I'm not going to spend too much time on The Last Jedi because I'm very passionately for The Last Jedi. I love the movie. I think it's really good. I mean, I put it on my end-of-the-year list, obviously, but my rewatches of the film have yielded nothing but positivity from me, and I hate the Star Wars fandom. I hate half of the Star Wars fandom right now, and even today, I've been getting into arguments with people about The Last Jedi, so I'm going to keep it brief. People built The Last Jedi up in their mind as something that it wasn't, and they hated that. They hated that the film was not hashtag their Star Wars. And that's irritating. And it bothers me that there's a campaign out there to remake a film that's perfectly fine as it is. I'm gonna take my sunglasses off because it's getting dark. But again, that would be that's definitely a topic for another day, the hypocrisy of the Star Wars fandom. But that's not the only film that in recent memory that's done it. The movie Hereditary does one thing to subvert. It doesn't build the film around subverting your expectations, but it does do one thing that the trailers misguide you on, and I don't hate it for that. You know, I've had people tell me that it wasn't what they were expecting, and they don't like it for that. Hereditary is a horror film. It's about this family that goes through some heartache and some tragedy, and they're coping with that. And things get really spooky and scary. And the trailers framed it around this little girl. Spoilers, she dies in the first act of the movie. It scared everybody in the cinema. The guy next to me let out an audible "holy shit" because it happened. And I loved that. You know, I thought that was great. You know, it's still supernatural, it still toys with people. And I thought it was interesting that people didn't like the movie because, or an issue they took with the movie is it wasn't what they were expecting based on the trailers. And one of the things, and I get it in some regard, but I don't think it detracts from the film that much. And in fact, I think in this instance, it enhances the film because it's a horror film. It toys with your suspension. You know, now it toys with your anxiety because now you don't feel safe. Anything could happen. This character that in the trailers was framed as a main character dies in the first act. That's interesting. You know, whereas the newest Godzilla, the movie's newest American Godzilla, I'm not talking Shin Godzilla, I'm talking 2014 Godzilla, that film was sold to us as a Bryan Cranston-helmed project. He also dies in the first act. However, I think that fails because they were selling his star power. There's even a Walter White mention in the opening credits. You know, they framed the ad campaign around this character that dies early on, and people went to the movie to see him. People went and saw Hereditary because they saw it was a scary movie. So there's a difference there, and I feel like that's where the difference is. You know, I don't like the new Godzilla movie for that. Or that's a issue I take with it, only because that's how it was pitched to us. You know, Hereditary is still a scary-ass movie. A really well-executed horror film. But it's frustrating to me that there's this fear of subversion in certain facets of culture. I love the fact, and I guess it's because I really like when I don't get what I expected and it pays off. You know, the new Godzilla could have been good if they didn't, it could have been better if they didn't sell it as a Bryan Cranston film. Well, there's other issues in the Godzilla movie that detract for it, but, and I know not everyone's biggest issue with Star Wars is the subversion, but there are some people that really hate that the movie doesn't feel true to Star Wars because it's all about making you question everything you know about Star Wars, which I like. I like that about it. I like that it does things that people weren't expecting, you know. And I think the big difference with all of this, or the big difference between Star Wars and the rest of these films, is the trailers to The Last Jedi didn't tell you anything about that. That was pure fan, you know, theorizing. It had nothing to do with the trailers. And that's my big issue with it. You know, my big issue is that it's not what you expected, but it's still a pretty well put together film, in my eyes at least. You know, I do take a lot of issue with that, but I'm also I'm seeing that be a recurring trend, is that people have issue with subversion, or they have issue with the element of surprise in a movie, when I feel like that's a good thing. You know, I want to go to a movie and I want to be surprised, you know. Not in a jump scare kind of way, but I want the plot and the story to go in a direction I wasn't expecting, you know. The last act of the newest Blade Runner was nothing like I thought it was going to be, but I fucking love it. I love the last act of Blade Runner 2049 because I didn't know, like, the movie was building towards something completely different. The movie itself was building towards something completely different, and I liked that they completely shifted it on its head. You know, I think it's interesting they did that, and it's interesting that people build up so much in their brain of what something is that anything that's not that is a problem, you know? But that's my piece, I guess. I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit now, but that's kind of my whole thorough thought of this is, I think it's interesting, and it's a little perturbing that people's expectations are so high for everything, for a lot of things anyway, that any straying from that is an issue. When I feel like it should be taken as, okay, it should be kind of thought about, but people don't want to do that, I feel like, I guess. Not everyone, but there's a large facet of people that do. I don't know, maybe you feel the same way. Let me know. If you liked Hereditary, if you didn't, tell me why. If you liked the new Godzilla, if you didn't, tell me why. Do you like subversion in film? Do you like when films throw a curveball at you? Do you like that sort of stuff? But I'm going to go. I have been ViralRak. You guys are good ASFs in situations. And I'll see you another day.